Hi, my name's Amber Emm. I'm a professional artist and have been for around about 20 odd years, and have been teaching adults as well for about the same time. I was a signwriter by trade originally, way before the computers were in with it, but my videos are really just a tool for you to use to learn to develop your skills. And the idea is that you can stop and start at any time you like. And so if you don't catch something you don't quite understand, go back and go over it again so you get the full gist of what I'm talking about. There will be times in these videos that I do a bit of time lapse. This is just where it's a bit repetitive and I'm doing the same thing over and over again. So instead of you sitting there watching me do every single stroke, I've just whizzed it up a bit. So you can stop at that stage and catch up, feel, I'm going to have a cup of tea, whatever, and then start again. Hi everybody, today we're going to be painting our nest with the eggs. I'm not going to worry about the background at all. I'm just going to leave the background white for today. And so I have placed my picture down on the right hand bottom corner so that it's just off centre and it makes it look more sort of quirky. You don't want it smack in the middle, it looks a bit weird if you do that. So we're going to start with our eggs today, just because they're really nice and light. We want to just I'm going to use very, very pale, a little bit of, I'm make sure my brush is clean, cerulean blue, and I want a touch of green in that, so I'm just going to use a little bit of phthalo, just like ever so slight, just to give that slightly sort of teal colour. Now you can do them each at just one at a time if you like, just wetting them as you go. So just getting that nice little bit of colour on there. Okay, I'm going to bring a little bit more of my phthalo green just around the back edge, just so that it's got that little bit of shadow. Okay, bringing that through, touch on the edge, so that I want the highlight to be sort of in there. Okay, so I'm sort of just tapping that colour. By tapping it, you sort of place the colour, it doesn't spread out. If you do the stroke, it will disperse. So I just want to just tap that so that it stays nice and strong against that edge there. Now while that's still wet, I'm going to come in with my burnt umber, because I want it to sort of connect to the nest. So I'm just going to do the same thing, just tapping that on that bottom edge, just so that I can, I might actually have to mix it with a bit of colour just to get it to move. So just coming in just to get that real strength in there, because it's actually surprising how dark that needs to be. Now with the same colour, I'm just going to sort of do a few little soft speckles out into the rest of the egg, but keeping it nice and strong against that outer edge. Now I've actually gone over my pencil line here, so I've got to be careful I don't keep re-going over. Just do the odd little speckle, but make sure they're not all exactly the same. Okay, make it a little bit stronger in there with that green. Not too stressed if I go into the brown, but I don't want to go on the other eggs. A little bit of cobalt blue in there, just to deepen it off. Just nice and tidy around that edge. And while it's wet, you've got quite a bit of time to sort of get this nice and blurry, but I do want that to be quite strong in there. Right. Like if you look at your picture, it almost just disappears. You hardly can see the edge of that egg in that part there. Okay, just gonna, you want a very slight edge all the way around, but definitely deeper on this this side here, so I could run that through there. I'll wipe that brush off, dry it off on my sponge, so I'm not bringing in more water, but I can just merge that a bit more with my brush, so I haven't got a definite, nothing's definite. I don't want anything to be sharp at this stage, because we will come in and do some more speckle on top, but I'm trying to get that curve of it, so I could even come in a little bit stronger. So I might do a little bit of the brown with the blue. Touch of water. And just giving that a bit more strength down the side. So I've sort of done it quite strong, and then I'm going to sort of speckle it out, doing some little and then just let that diffuse. Okay. So then I'm going to do the same sort of thing on the other eggs as well. So just getting my phthalo green and a little bit of my cerulean blue. Just get a nice sort of, but I don't want it to be strong, so I'm going to make it quite watery. I'll come in here and do this one here. And I'm going to go a little bit further. Oh, well, I know I won't. I'm just going to do, I'm leaving a little gap where I think there's a thread of straw. Okay, and I might actually, what will I do? I'm going to do this one as well, because they are all very similar. So I've got this one here, so I'm going to do a little piece in there, just so that I've got the idea of that following through, and I'm creating that air sort of coming around the, you know, with the straw. You're not having it completely solid, you've got gaps in it. Coming back with my phthalo green and a little bit of my cobalt blue, just making that a bit stronger. Just tapping that. Oh, it's a bit wet. I might need to let it dry off a bit. You can see it's just dispersing too fast and too far. I want that just to, I haven't got any control, so I will let that dry a bit more before I carry on with that, otherwise you'll never get the effect that you want. Right, I've left that for a little bit. Now I'm just going to come in, this is just a dry brush, I'm just going to suck out a little bit. So where you want your highlight, I don't want it like smack in the middle, I want it to one side, and so I'm just going to put my brush on there. See if I can just sort of suck out a little bit of light in there. Like I still want that to remain wet in those areas, otherwise it'll give you a watermark, but I want it just to have a bit more of a lighted area. Just sucking that out a bit more. Okay. Now I'm going to start coming in with my other colours around. So getting my cobalt blue and a little bit of my burnt umber. Just deepening that around that edge. It's the same thing as what we did before, just bringing those colours in. And just by tapping it really, it's very, very minor what you're doing in that nice little shape, but just transferring that speckle in. It's be nice and dark, and make sure you leave that little gap if you can. You know, and you can make another little one if you wanted to, just so that you've got that. It all adds to the interest of the shape of your eggs. A little bit more dark on that side, just to give me that nice sort of rounding. Now add some more of that grey colour. So that's just the burnt umber and the blue together by themselves. That makes a grey. She's got to connect to this guy here, so I'll bring a little bit more brown. Take a few little speckles out in the middle. Before this one dries off too far, we'll do the same thing. Just taking a few of those little bit of shadow in there. Just sprinkling around. Now if they do dry out, just re-wet the egg that you're working on, just gently with a little bit of water, so that you can re-work it. Just while you're doing these sort of slightly blurry bits. I'm just adding a bit of burnt umber by itself just to give it a bit more shadow. Okay. A little bit of brown. So now I'm just coming in, just doing a few little brown speckles in there because it's just off dry. It's very close to being on dry, so just bringing the few little tap, not many, because what we're going to do once in fact don't do any more than that, that's heaps. I'll do the speckle afterwards. Right, we're going to work on this guy now. Now I'm going to make this even lighter than the ones around it, so with just add a bit more water. Now thinking I've got this piece of straw coming through there, so connect it through. And then a little piece in here. And come in with the same colours, just tapping it off. Now on the photo, these two virtually become inseparable, so I'm not too worried if I get my colour quite close to that. Just a little bit more in there. Okay. And then the same thing, get your dark one. Just do a few little taps just to connect it so it looks the same as the others. That's all you're trying to do, is just trying to get them all sort of within a cooey of each other. And you can make it, I could end up losing half of what I'm doing here, but it's just to give me that nice sort of chance to do some strokes, like have some of the straw there if I wanted to. So just giving you that little darkness in there. Okay. Now I do want to keep them sort of similar, so I'm going to bring a few more of the blue, a little bit bluer over this side, just so that I can get that same. What have I done? I made it quite got it right. What have I done? Get the colour right. Just bring a bit more blue there. That's the one. Just so that it's got that same connection. Now what I want to do is I want to do some speckle. Now I'm just going to use the toothbrush. So we're going to do just with the brown, so with our burnt umber. Now you want it to be quite runny, so get your colour, a little bit of water. So the more water you have, the bigger the dots. Okay. Now I'm not worried if I get it over anything, but if you want to, you can put paper around it if you want to, if you're doing something. So the idea is you keep the toothbrush stays still, and you use your finger, and you can have more control of where the speckle goes. Okay, so just load it up again. So you can make it different colours. You can do more darks if you want. So the finer it is, the I was going to say the wetter it is, you'll get bigger dots. Okay, so I can make that quite speckly. Okay, and that's probably all I do. I don't want to do too many. And then I'll dry that with a hairdryer. Right, now we're going to start doing our straw. Now I'm going to use my calligraphy pen and my masking first of all. So all I'm going to be doing is trying to do the lightest part. So I'm just going to do a couple of little pieces on some of these because we're going to slowly build this up. It's quite time consuming, but it will work quite well. Okay, so I'm just going to do a few strokes, not many. So by using the calligraphy pen, you can sort of get yourself nice sort of lines without having to do too much work with it. Now, any of these lines, you do not want them to run into each other. They've got to be slightly apart from each other. So, and you can have thick ones and thin ones, but not too many at this stage. We just want a couple of these really bright ones that just catch in the odd spot. So these are going to be the biggest highlights you're going to have. So I'll put a little piece on that piece and a little piece there. Do a couple of little ones. What have we got? I'll do one there. It's quite tricky because you've got to sort of think reverse-wise what you're doing. You're doing the brightest things that you can see. We'll do a couple out here as well. So I'm thinking where that one would join through. And I'll do just a couple. So I'm not doing many, I'm just the odd one. Okay, I'm going to dry that and then we'll start painting. Now, I don't know whether you can see, but hopefully you'll get the glisten off the masking. So I haven't done too many of the of masking there. So what we're now going to do is we're going to do our next lighter swatch, which is just a very soft straw colour. So you could use yellow ochre, you could use very, very pale yellow if you liked. You can add a touch of burnt sienna to it, so it's really watery, this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and start thinking about my strokes. So in the bulk of it, we're going to paint that same colour. So just nowhere near the edges, okay? We're just coming through the bulk part in here. And then we can come out and we can just take, get some more paint, sort of using our brush, and you can change brushes here if you want to. You can use a rigger brush, make it nice and sort of soft. You want to start doing some of these things so you're leaving some air, but it's integrating into what we've got. Now, the pencil lines that I've given you are just a guide, and you can make yours, anything you like really. So I'm just trying to get some action going on that outside edge, and you can do the odd one that's sticking out and weird, but don't do them all doing the same direction. You want it to have some interest, okay? And it sort of comes off that bulk part there, okay? And we can do some little bits of interest within that, but trying to get that nice, sort of thinking that they're overlapping, interesting, but I want it sort of pretty much some colour in there. Okay. Just quick, nothing too stressful about it. It's just getting some colour on and then making your edges interesting. Okay. I'm actually going to go right in that centre part, so you can make this a little bit deeper. So now I'm going to come in here and do some little bits that cross out into that. So you're keeping that circle in a circle, And we're going to wet all that in there and make that nice and dark. Well, get this colour on first, you know. Okay, but you want it to be sort of integrated into that outside piece if you can. So just doing the odd little piece that breaks that line. Just carefully go up to your eggs. Okay. I'm going to dry that, and then we're going to do some more masking on top. So I'm just going to carry on masking and thinking, doing some more, you know, just more on top of this stuff, having some that go past each other, you know, that's going underneath one, go right over some of the ones that you've already done. Have some thicks and some thin, some bendy ones. So this is going to be your light, you know, second lightest colour, so you can be thinking about where that light, the light's coming from over here. So this side of the actual nest is quite bright. Oh, bit blob there. I don't really want that, but I'll use it to scoop up other things. And sort of have it integrating over top of them. It's a bit sort of guesswork, but it's having a bit of fun with it. We can divide it all up later, but you're getting that, just some interesting little squiggles. So you're trying to get that round and that movement coming back and forth, and I'll just do a few little coming in here. Okay, and then I'm going to dry that, so hopefully you can sort of see what I've done there. It's sort of a little bit patchy. I've gone more than I did on my first layer, but I haven't done it all. Okay, I'm just going to dry that. Right, that's dry. Now I'm just going to come over and make another sort of layer of depth. So coming in a little bit stronger with a little bit more burnt umber in our mix that we had originally. So we're not going really, really dark. We're still stepping it down. Might actually add a bit of burnt sienna so it's a little bit rich. And I'm pretty much just going to go over everything in there except for the middle. I can go over the middle. I'm going to go over the middle. Just giving myself, and this is where you can start to see where your masking is. Okay. So mix up some of my colour, keeping it the same sort of. Go right up to your eggs. Okay. Coming through here. And then you can start sort of coming out, giving yourself those little tweaky bits. So some of these are quite sort of disjointed, so like it's like a little branch, or you know, a little twig, so it's out and a flick sort of thing. You sort of stop and twig, make it interesting. Some little sharp ones, you know, curly ones. So you can start coming over and making some interesting sort of edges to it. But try not to do the same shape over and over again. So like try and sort of, you know, shape it up. So I'm really just sort of doing a bit of scribble over that now. Keep coming down. Right. I'm going to come in with a bit more of my burnt umber. Just get that going. into this middle part. It's going to be quite strong with this now. But give yourself that whole, like thinking about it going round the nest with crosses, you know, take it right up to the eggs where it's nice and dark, right against the eggs because we want the eggs to stand out. But you want that whole little bit of variation in the texture of the background, so you can do some crisscrossing over top of it. Leave a few holes. But just in that centre part, because that's going to be the darkest part of the whole thing. Okay, and touch up that little piece in the middle. That can actually be very strong there. I'm going to let that dry, and then we're going to do another layer of masking. So you can now see where you've got your masking, and the idea is that we want our new stalks to go right over some of those other ones, and that'll give you that whole, and they will end up looking like they're even behind. That's how it sort of works, because you're doing the dark ones. So we want to really start making some interesting little ones that go over top and start interlapping them, so you can start getting a few of those crossing ones, and this is what starts to make it interesting. So I can do maybe one in the little dark area, but bring a few more along here. Right, dry that and we'll do another layer. So just the same again, you can almost just come, you can start getting a bit stronger now. So I'm getting my burnt sienna, a bit of burnt umber, and I might even add a little bit of magenta just to make it a little bit rich, just to give it a bit of something. Same thing again, you're just gonna come through, you can start doing your own little twisting if you want to, or you can paint the whole thing solid, depends on what you want to do. Doesn't really matter, it's all adds character to it. I'm just going to put a, do it more this little way just because I think it's interesting. But you could do it quite solidly. That's the whole point of the masking, is that it gives you that ability to make it easier for you. It's really just crisscrossing and overlapping, making it interesting. So this side of the actual nest is in shadow, so I can actually add that, make that a bit deeper in colour at this stage, start bringing a bit more of the dark blue and brown in it. I still will have a bit of that reddish colour in there, but now I'm going to grab a little bit more of my burnt umber, and just do burnt umber by itself at this stage, just doing a few little dark lines in here, making them a bit more interesting. We will still do another layer on top of this, so it's just building it up, and that's what makes it have, the depth that we want to make it look really good. So just a few little of those dark ones in there. Take some of these dark ones on the outside edge as well. The odd one that just sort of goes off and does its own little weird thing. And now I'm going to come back into this centre part just with the burnt umber. I'm not doing it super dark, but just coming over this again. I'm going to come back in here. I think I sort of made this egg looks a bit big to me, so I'm just going to bring it in a bit. right in against that egg. Take that in. So I'm making this quite a tight sort of little curves in here because that's inside the basket of the nest. Okay. Okay, so we're starting to get our shape, it's starting to come. Okay. Right, I'm going to dry that. I'm going to do another layer. So one more layer of this. So just doing some really little busy ones. So doing quite a few, just a little, really make this some really thick ones. I'm not worried about them going over top. I want them to be quite interesting. Okay. That's about it. Right, we'll dry that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do our sort of getting to the end of it now. Now I'm wanting, this is all very, very warm, and I want some coolness in there. So I'm coming in with my my cobalt blue, and mostly cobalt blue and a little bit of the burnt umber, just so that it becomes more grey. If you've got indigo, that's just as good because it's pretty much the same colour. Now we're just coming in and we want to start making the silhouette sort of pieces that we're not going to, that make it interesting. So we're coming in, all those little ones that stick out, bringing those ones in, and come in and just sort of do some real darks through this, because you won't see half of what we're doing because it's covered in masking. So you're just trying to get the little tiny dark holes in between that really set it off. Okay, so just doing some nice depth in here. I'm not too stressed about it. I just want some to be some nice ones on the edge that make it interesting. It's a little silhouette thing. It's like even on these ones here where you've got the dark brown, you can just do a little bit of the blue on the edge of them just to give you that strength. And as they come in, they can even have a bit of the dark. So you can sort of like just sweep it in to hold it. So just slowly coming through. You can be quite ruthless with the blue. It's not too stressful. I'm really just crisscrossing and scribbling on top of it, as you can see. So it doesn't have to be too perfect at this stage. Well, it has never had to be on this sort of thing because it is such a loose object, which is quite nice. So just doing some of these dark ones on the outside edge. This is where the sort of shadows come around. Take some out that are going round and take some of those in. I want that to be quite dark on the side, so I can almost just do a wash over that. It will come out way lighter. You'll be surprised how different it is when it's when we take the masking off. And that's the whole thing. It's all about having the faith in the masking. And at the end, you can always, you can come and lift things out and do all that. So now I'm going to come into the middle part, and I'm wanting that to be quite strong up into this masking edge on the top here, so they get that nice contrast, so that it really sets that edge of the bowl of the nest down. And just come in, and so this is what we will actually see. So you do want to get that whole idea of the integrating, the locking, this weaving of the nest in that circle. So it's almost like crisscrossing as you're coming round. Okay, and then as you get near the edge you can be quite dark. Just water that out so it's a little softer. Nice and dark in there. Okay. Now I'm just going to get a bit of that indigo again, a little bit watery, and just tap those edges. That really does just merge. I really want that just to sit inside there. Just sort of disappear. Okay. Come in here and do a few more little speckles on this one. Okay. Just do a little bit more brown. You can just merge it a bit more if you like. A bit more of the indigo in some spots. Just doing some. Just making it a little bit messier on this outside edge. So it's very dark on this side because it's in the shadow. And we'll just do a few more spikes in there. Right, I'm going to dry that and then we're going to lift all the masking off. Okay, so as you can see, it's a lot different. You've got lots of bright ones in the front here. So now I just want to separate them and make them look a little bit better. So I'm coming back to my rigger brush and I'm going to just slowly soften some of them because I don't want them all to be as bright as that, and I don't want them all to be the same value the whole stroke. So I can sort of think, okay, I want some to be just disappearing in, so I just want them to be just a little bit softer on one side maybe, or I'll just take them, give them a little bit more so they don't have to be as bright. So you can just play around with their values. So that's a little bit fiddly, but it is worth doing. Just get my other brush. So you can sort of come in and think, okay, just want the end of those ones where it comes off out of the, you know, in the depths. You want it to be a bit darker. Just taking them, giving them a little bit of variance. That's all you've got to do. I mean, it doesn't seem to be making much difference, but it will. And then the next thing to do is come in with your burnt umber, and where they're overlapping each other, you want to give it a bit of shadow. So where this big light one is overlapping this one that's coming across here. If I just do a little shadow there, it sets it up. So anything, because our light's coming from here, anything on this side of each other is going to get the shadow. So these two crossing here, I can just do like a little line through there. That one's got one there. I might just do one there. Got that one there. That can have a shadow. So you can go through, and it takes you a little while, but it's well worth doing because it really starts to put a layering system within your picture, and it definitely helps to get the actual sort of mood of it, the layering. Okay, so I'm just doing this on dry. You know, everything's dry now, so I can come back in. Oh, so there's my paint. Just thinking where things would lay on top of each other. You can use a bit of blue if you want to, just to make it a bit stronger if you need it. And you can go as deep into the picture as you like with this system. You know, it just really adds depth to your picture. It means you can divide some of the things up as well. A bit time consuming. So you can sort of make a decision on who's on top. Generally whoever's brightest, but you can have them going in behind each other, which is quite nice. And if some of them are too bright, you can tone them down. You can really come back in and change it completely. You know, you can decide to make one shorter than it is, or and if you decide the whole thing's a little bit bright, you can always come in and just soften off one area if you think it's just a bit too vibrant. You know, you want it to be a little bit deader. Just gently just touch up some areas so that they're not, you don't want to play because you'll lose what what you've already got, but you can just tone them down a fraction if you think they're a bit bright in some areas, because you don't want it all to be very even. You want some areas to be a bit lower than others, and give yourself a sort of a deep area. Now I'm just grabbing a little bit of the gouache and just working that up so it's reasonably creamy. I don't want it to be too watery, I won't have any guts. So just getting that worked up. And you can sort of come through and just touch up the odd one that you think could have had a bit more, like I could have put that one there, makes it a bit more interesting. Tidy up some, make them come a little bit longer and skinnier, or you know, just to give that a little bit more. Okay. You sort of play. I mean, you've got, because there's so much going on, you're actually got a lot of leeway to change things as you want. biggest part is having the contrast so that you can make things stand out. I don't like that big blobby one there, it sort of looks horrible, so I'm going to, from there, going to let that go in there. You can add some darker ones on top, like a little bit of interlacing ones. In the picture they're obviously like little seed heads. They've got, it's quite messy, some of the ones that she's got in her nest, so you can sort of little, just to make it sort of more random. That's using that long rigger again so I can get those nice thin lines without too much stress. That's pretty much it, really. I'm just going to add a little bit of dark just on the bottom edge of this one there, just so that I've got a nice little bit of shadow. Just gives her that little bit of interest. They're not perfectly flat. Cool. Made these three, they're very similar. I'm going to have to do something to change that, so I might do that one there just to break it up. Okay. You could do, if you really wanted to, you could do like a little feather in there from the mum. So I've just got the white gouache. Now it'll fade to nothing in here, so I'm not too stressed about it, so I'm thinking they're nice and a little curve, and just do it real fine. Just doing that little piece of light in there, so it's not all the same value, it's just got that little bit of light on one part. That's the shadow. You can do the same thing, you to put a few of those little feathers sticking out, just to give it some interest, really. So make sure you get them so they're longer at the base than they are at the top, so they've got that sort of sail shape. Hi, you've obviously finished the video and I'm hoping that you enjoyed it and learned a lot from it. I have really enjoyed making these videos for you. And just remember, you feel free to email me if you would like any advice or have any more questions. I'm more than happy to answer. You can email me on emmt@extra.co.nz. And I'd just like to say thank you for letting me be part of your painting journey. See ya.